As you guys have seen on my channel, I started a lot on, fitness. Fitness is a passion of mine and it has been since I was very, very young. I decided to try it out and I really started to see Hey learners, I'm in the middle of prepping my post-meal workout. As I'm doing this, I just want to let you guys know where this channel is going. I really want to start something that's really been on my mind for years and years. I think we all go through this period where we start to master something. I've talked about this, learning and mastering topics. And as we start understanding something deeper and deeper, we start to realize how little we actually know. As I've gone through my learning journey, as it relates to any topic, and you guys can probably relate to this, usually there's two sides to an argument, right? Two sides to a topic. You find there's usually two camps, one or the other. That's kind of how it's portrayed. And you'll find people on both sides of a topic and they'll be saying this is the way, this is how you should do things. And the other topic's bashing on this side saying, no, this is how you should do things, right? And I'm sure we've all spent years doing that and seeing two sides to an argument. And I think we all kind of know, when you start to really understand something deeply, you start to see truth in both sides. You're like, well, this is true, but does that mean that's always true? This is true right now. But this is also, for this time of my life, this is also true. And what I've come to label this as is dichotic truth, right? Or two-dimensional truth. When you're learning something, you want to understand something so deeply that you know what those two camps are. And then so that you can actually think clearly and then create a wise action plan, being able to understand both sides and then being able to, kind of jump back and forth. The whole point of this channel is to create two-dimensional learning, two-dimensional truth as it relates to understanding a topic. And then using both sides to master it, to learn it, and to actually get the results you want in whatever endeavor you're pursuing. As you guys have seen on my channel, I started a lot on fitness. Fitness is a passion of mine and it has been since I was very, very young. That's I love to do. I've always have, and I've been married 13 years. We have two kids. I have a 10-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. And this is still something, from high school, in my early youth till now, I still love fitness, right? But my journey in fitness has been very, it's non-linear. What I did 5 years ago, what I did last year, what I did last month is very different from what I'm doing now. And that is the jumping back and forth of the dichotomy. So what I'm gonna focus on now for at least the coming months, the topic I'm passionate about is fitness. But you can apply this to any endeavor that you're doing. Identify your topic and then identify the two camps. So the two camps that are in fitness, and those of you that maybe follow fitness, there's usually the science-based lifters that go off of studies and science and empirical work. And they're like, this is the way to do things, right? And then the other side, there's those that are more intuitive about how I feel. Science-based lifting knows nothing about what it takes to get real results. What I've come to see is science-based, there's facts to back it up, but then there's times in my life where what actually worked for me before doesn't work now. Or my goals have shifted a little bit, so oh, now I see why intuitive lifters were talking about this, because I see the shortcomings of science-based lifting. For example, the controversial thing is hypertrophy work. There's been people in science-based lifting before. Now science is always changing, right? They're saying that, high rep ranges, right? This is when I was a kid, 12 to 15 reps or above is hypertrophy. And then people would, and if you want to get bulky, right, you would do low rep ranges. Now, science now has changed over the last 10, 15 years. No, it's actually hypertrophy is achieved when it's just time under tension and you achieve close to failure, right? It doesn't necessarily matter the rep range. And so you can do 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 12 to 15. You're still going to achieve hypertrophy as long as you're hitting failure or close to failure on those last few reps. But now I'll give you this. So that's kind of what I was living by. And I still do that. Now I did come across this last couple of years, a guy that was talking about bro science, intuitive lifting. And I started to just try it out. What he was saying is that these are all hypertrophy work, but the lower rep ranges actually bring out, or more of a foundation, right? Strength is correlated to muscle growth. It can be, but it's not the end all be all. These low rep ranges are a foundation. It's supposed to kind of put on the bulk of the muscle, a denser muscle. As you get to that 8 to 10, 8 to 12, now you're starting to refine the muscle, right? And even a higher rep range is 15 and above, you're refining it even more because you're doing really, really lightweight or even body, like calisthenics or something like that. You're doing that and you're pumping more blood into the muscle, right? And bringing out, I guess, the details. I'm getting chatty here. I'm barely even cutting up what I'm doing here. But I started to apply that and I started to see my body change. But if I would have had a fixed mindset, a closed mindset, and saying, you know what, no, science only says it doesn't matter the rep range. But if I would have what this guy's saying, really there's no science to back it up. It's his own personal experience. But I decided to try it out. And I really started to see my muscles have become a little more grainy, right? And that also comes with muscle maturity and training over a year. But I do see that. Now, I think that would not have worked for me 5-10 years ago because I was still building my foundation. I'm going to focus on intuitive lifting and on science-based lifting as well. And that relates to training, also to diet, and just give you my personal anecdotes, my personal experience. What works for me may not work for you, also based on where you're at in your journey. For example, I can give you with this, one thing that I've done for years is intermittent fasting. When I get older, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I mean, I'm not old. My kids say I'm getting old. But I'm closer to 40 now. This year I hit 35. I'm closer to 40 than I am to 30, which was kind of a mile marker for me. And I'm starting to see that as I'm doing intermittent fasting, I feel weaker in the morning. Like I didn't feel this way even 6 months, a year ago, but I'm really starting to feel that. So maybe I should start eating. And I came across this podcast where this woman was talking about as you get older, right, a calorie in the nighttime is like 10x a calorie in the morning because of how your metabolism changes as you get older. Maybe intermittent fasting is not right for me right now. Maybe I need to have a little more calories than I eat in the morning and adjustment, and I feel a whole lot better. Right? I have more energy for my lifts. And I'm also not eating so much at night before bed where I'm spiking my insulin, right? And I can't fall asleep anyway. So that's what I'm talking about, guys. So now in my journey, we're gonna talk about these two things. I'm jumping back and forth. I'm not gonna be one of these influencers or these people. I don't necessarily call myself an influencer, but I don't want to be someone that's bashing on the other side, right? I'm gonna say like, hey, this is some science-based stuff. This is intuition-based stuff. I'll link some sources in the bottom, based on what I've found and what I'm applying right now and why I'm going to try my best to explain why I'm applying it. But that's really what I want to focus on. The end goal of this too, for me, is just to help anyone who's learning anything about anything, but also in your guys' fitness journey is something I'm passionate about. Maybe you should put that idea in your head, like maybe I should be trying more intuitive stuff that's more anecdotal, right? Stuff that's based on my personal circumstances. Or maybe I need to be more of a science-based approach, right? Maybe more logic and reason. Anyways, guys, that's kind of what I wanted to share with you here. I'm excited, right, to start sharing my journey with you. I have some real big aspirations for what I want to do with this. Just say the coming months. Again, we're real learners. I want to avoid controversy. I want to avoid extremism. I want to avoid polarity. That's not what this is about. This is about the different arguments, the different things, and how am I going to apply them to where I'm at. Guys, keep being real learners. Love to hear your guys' thoughts, comments. If you like this video, always like, subscribe if you haven't already. If you have questions, I love to talk to you guys in the comments. I appreciate the comments, and I love getting to know you guys more. I'm going to finish prepping my meal here. I think my sweet potato fries are done. And then I'm going to prep this, and I'm going to go hit the gym. But we'll talk to you guys later.